What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am here with a very special video for you today. This basically being a league format update video for the channel because there's a lot of things to talk about here, and I'm going to go into a lot of depth on one of them in particular. But let's just start things off with a brief reminder that I do have the NPL playoffs coming up soon. That is round 1 of the playoffs against Iron Flash Gaming and the Detroit Butterfrees. That will be on this channel in, I guess, a week and a half or so, and we do have that delay because of the fact that we have our March Madness Pokemon tournament coming up this coming weekend, so definitely hope to see you there. That was actually the second part of this announcement video, so that fittingly worked out pretty well, but we do definitely hope to see you there at the tournament. That will be Saturday, March 25th, starting at noon Central Standard Time, and we will have a video specifically dedicated to that tournament coming out here on Friday, so be on the lookout for that. We definitely hope to see you there on March 25th. Now, the whole reason behind this video isn't to talk about the NPL, and it's not even to talk about March Madness. It's to make a pretty special announcement that I have already revealed on Twitter. For those of you that follow me there, you're already aware of this, but for those that don't have a Twitter or just don't pay attention to our Twitter, I just want to let you know that I am officially in the Pokemon Premier League, the PPL, a group of very, very cool guys. I'm really excited to be a part of that league. And just recently, we had our draft. There was a draft stream. We talked about all of our picks, and this is going to be my draft analysis for PPL Division 1. So your Toronto Staraptors are branching out yet again into some other leagues. It kind of worked out well in my schedule with the NPL finishing up here very soon. And as a matter of fact, you're going to be able to see a nice doubleheader of videos here on the weekend, the first weekend of April, as you will see the NPL playoff upload on that Saturday. I believe that's April 1st, and then you'll be able to see my week 1 PPL Division 1 upload on April the 3rd. So lots of cool stuff coming up here, and I hope you are as excited as I am for both of those battles. So let's go ahead and jump into this draft analysis a little bit. And before I do anything else, I want to give a huge shout out to my front office for helping with the drafting process of this team, as basically this is why I formed a front office. I didn't have a front office before we started this PPL draft, because as soon as we were about to start that draft, I basically told myself that, alright, this is the league, this is the season that I want to win. I want to get that first championship. If I'm not able to do it in the NPL, which I'm definitely capable, but let's be honest, I have to go through Iron Flash Gaming, probably Matty Brawlick, and then Gypsy King. That's the worst possible triple header I might have to go through to get a championship in the NPL this season. It's not impossible, but you know, that's not exactly easy. So let's go ahead and somewhat turn my attention to the PPL a little bit further and just see if we can pick up the first championship there if we're not able to take care of business in this NPL season. So I've made a front office to make this a little bit easier. Some people that I trust, really, I like their ideas in my building, and they've always been really helpful for me in the past. So shout out to Magic, Lou, Hallucination, the Flying Bird, Togavor, friend Carson, and Rizzy Powell, who all are in my front office, as well as Trev. He's in there. He didn't help me with the drafting because he's a power ranker for the PPL, but even so, he's in there. Shout out to him. They're all very helpful and were very important in making this draft come together. Now, the principle behind this draft, the main idea, the main thing I wanted to build around was Clefable Mega Slowbro. Now, that's not something that I don't know if anyone, at least in a major league, has drafted around that core, at least not for a very long time, especially Mega Slowbro. That's not a mon that usually gets picked up, and I think it just has kind of a bad reputation for not being very good, quite frankly. And I kind of disagree, honestly. I think it actually has the potential to be one of the best megas in the format, and there's a chance that whoever might have drafted it in the past just didn't use it to its full capacity. But just looking through its move pool, obviously its ability Shell Armor, it cannot be crit. That's pretty cool considering it can run Calm Mind with a crazy high defensive stat, but it can do so much more than that, and that's why I really wanted to build a team around Mega Slowbro plus Clefable, which Clefable is arguably the best partner for Mega Slowbro possible. People might have some better ideas out there. If you do have a better idea for for Mega Slowbro, just let me know in the comments. I'll definitely be interested in seeing that. But I really do think that Mega Slowbro Clefable is a core that is very, very hard to deal with. And I say that because Clefable does have access to Unaware, which essentially ignores stat boosts, which is something that Mega Slowbro might struggle with. For example, an opponent trying to go for a Swords Dance to help break down a Mega Slowbro on the physical side as it's setting up Calm Minds. Clefable can switch in and ignore those stat boosts and essentially wall it out for free. Another thing to consider is Clefable's ability in Magic Guard. Mega Slowbro is probably one of the biggest lures for Toxic in the entire game, and Clefable with Magic Guard soaks that up. So that combination is really, really good defensively. And on top of that, these are both defensive Pokemon that do not need a boost at all to be a threat offensively. Clefable runs very powerful Life Orb sets. Mega Slowbro has a very high special attack stat. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I'm going to go ahead and look it up right now. It's actually base 130 special attack. That is not something to be taken lightly. With max investment and modest nature, that hits 394. That hits a base stat of 394. That is equivalent to an Adamant Dragonite. I am pretty confident that is equivalent to an Adamant Dragonite. I will look that up as well right now to confirm, and it's actually stronger. No, sorry, not quite as strong as an Adamant Dragonite, only a few points lower than that, but that's still just a reference point. It is nearly as powerful as Dragonite is, except on the special side instead of the physical side, and you know how hard a Banded Dragonite hits. So just imagine what a +1 modest Mega Slowbro can do to a team. Imagine what even an unboosted Mega Slowbro can do to a team when it has options such as Psychic and Hydro Pump, as well as a ton of other coverage options like Fire moves. I believe it even gets Thunderbolt. So Mega Slowbro is definitely an offensive threat to be reckoned with, as well as being the defensive menace that we all know it is from our unfortunate experiences on the ladder. So I really wanted to build around Mega Slowbro Clefable for this draft, and in doing so, I had a few roles I also wanted to fulfill. As you know from the Drafting with the Elite videos, you know I like to build in roles, I like to draft in roles. Some of the things I wanted to look at were I wanted to make sure I got at least 10 Pokemon, as this is not an open draft, it is a point system draft with a salary cap of 110 million. I'm assuming Pokédollars is the currency. I'm just going to go with it. 110 million Pokédollars, and Clefable itself is 16, Mega Slowbro is also 16, so essentially I am left with 110 minus 32 Pokédollars, or million Pokédollars, which I'm not going to try to do the math in my head right now, but you probably can figure that out. I have a little bit to work with still after that, and the maximum number of Pokemon I can have on my team is 11. The minimum, I don't think there's actually a minimum in the PPL, I might be wrong on that, but it's pretty hard to get less than 8 Pokemon, I would say. Even so, I want to have at least 10, because I feel like the more Pokemon you have, the more difficult it is for your opponent to prepare for them, and if I draft all Pokemon that I'm willing to bring, that just makes it all the more difficult for my opponent in their prep. So I wanted to have at least 10 Pokemon, and because I'm building around a pretty expensive defensive core in Clefable Mega Slowbro, I wanted to use a sufficient number of points such that I can draft two very powerful and versatile offensive threats that can essentially lead the team offensively, such that I'm not really forced to draft several other pure offensive mons. So I'm willing to designate a lot of points toward those two offensive mons, preferably both of those mons being able to be a setup physical sweeper, or one of them being a setup physical sweeper and the other one being a setup special sweeper, preferably both having the ability to run agility, preferably both being very good wall breakers without a boost as well. And I do believe I have accomplished that with this draft, and I'll talk more about the specific picks here in a second. But other things I was looking for in my draft, I wanted to make sure that my defensive core was both strong and synergetic, just ensuring that I have ways to deal with every potential threat in the game. And I do feel like I've also accomplished that, as well as having staple defensive Pokemon that can be used offensively. I've already kind of talked about this, the Clefable and the Mega Slowbro, both prime examples of that, and I also feel that many of my other defensive Pokemon can be used well offensively. And then, of course, I wanted to fulfill just some common roles, such as Hazard Layers, Hazard Removers, Taunters, a Pursuit User, preferably Stab Pursuit, and then Priority, as Priority is the best way to bail yourself out of some tough situations. And finally, last but not least, I also wanted to incorporate at least one Pokemon from Sun and Moon, as I did not have the opportunity to use use any Sun and Moon Pokemon in my NPL season. So with this being my second season in the generation, I definitely wanted to try to branch out a little bit in that regard. So with that said, let's hop on into the draft. And as you can see, I am going to start off with drafting Clefable. No surprise, I do decide to pick that up in round 1 just because I know how essential it is to my draft plan, and knowing that really I don't need to worry about Mega Slowbro getting drafted. As like I said, it's never drafted, period, in any league lately. So really, I can let Mega Slowbro slide to the very last round, which really frees up my drafting a lot, as what that will allow me to do is essentially move the priority of every single later pick up by 1. Meaning that I essentially am going to guarantee myself no snipes. As long as I have a reasonable draft plan, I will have no snipes at all, because I will be able to draft everything 1 round earlier than I would have wanted to in the first place. So that's really convenient here with Mega Slowbro being a member of the draft plan. So, starting off with Clefable, if you're watching my channel, have watched me for a long time, you know Clefable can do a lot of stuff, and I'm really excited to be able to actually branch out with Clefable now that Z moves are a thing, as the PPL Z move rule is pretty liberal in that you are able to have 2 Pokemon that are offensive Z move eligible and 1 that is all Z moves. Okay, so I can have 1 Pokemon that can use absolutely any Z move in its arsenal except those that increase your evasion and except those that would Omni Boost all of your stats. And I'm just going to say now that Clefable is going to be the Pokemon that I'm going to make my all Z move eligible. It's called a Super Z user, I believe, as the official text. It's going to be able to use any Z move on my team. And I'm really excited to use Clefable like that, because while I had a lot of tricks with Clefable in the past, giving it the addition and ability to use a Z move in any particular game is so threatening, because it has incredible offensive coverage. I could just run an offensive Z move on it and essentially net a free KO on something that could have otherwise been a big threat. For example, if someone has a Heatran, I could run something like Z Focus Blast and probably just take it out in 1 hit. That's just one example. Obviously, there's many other examples. I am not going to go into detail strategically on the support Z moves that I believe are very effective on Clefable, because I know that people don't know them. Just from listening to the draft stream, people don't know which Z moves, which support Z moves on Clefable are particularly threatening and viable in League format. I want that to be a surprise for my future opponents, so I'm sorry for not going into detail on that, but I know that my future opponents are going to be watching this video, so I do need to maintain that layer of secrecy, as Clefable is my secret weapon. It always has been, and just look forward to some of the things that I'm going to do with Clefable this season, as I'm really excited to use it as my Super Z move user. Now, for my second overall pick, I start to dig into my offenses. As like I said before, I want to draft around, obviously I'm drafting around Clefable, Mega Slowbro, but I want to have a powerful offensive duo that can essentially be sufficient for all of my offensive needs throughout the season. And what better Pokemon to fulfill one of those 2 positions than one of the Thundurus forms? Unfortunately, I wanted Thundurus Therian. It did get taken from me before I could get it, but I do end up getting Thundurus Incarnate here in round 2. You guys know what Thundurus can do. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but it will as well be one of my Z move users, unsurprisingly, as Thundurus Eye with a Z Stone. I believe Z Stone, is that right? Z Crystal, there we go, Z Crystal, that's the one. Thundurus Eye with a Z Crystal is just an absolute menace. It doesn't need a boost to get an OHKO because of the Z Crystal, but if it is able to get up a nasty plot plus having the Z Crystal, it will kill essentially anything, which is pretty cool. Especially considering the fact that Thundurus does have a very wide special move pool, and quite honestly a passable physical move pool as well. So definitely excited to use Thundurus Eye in the Z move era. Recently got Thundurus T on my NPL team and have loved that a lot. It's really fun to use there. I anticipate that it'll also be really fun to use in its incarnate form, especially with that extra speed boost. The only thing it really lacks compared to Thundurus Therian is the small decrease in its offenses, but that's really a small price to pay for the excellent speed tier that it gains in the incarnate form. So really excited to use Thundurus this season, and I think it will serve me well as one of my go-to offensive mons. Now, to complete that offensive core, in round 3, I decided to pick up Diggersby. Now, Diggersby is a value pick. It is only 12 million. Thundurus Eye was 17 million. I did not explicitly mention that, but Diggersby is 12 million. Now, in that slot, I could have gone for something like Garchomp. That was definitely tempting, but looking ahead in my draft plan, I found that it would be really hard to maintain a solid team from top to bottom if I picked up Garchomp instead of Diggersby. Garchomp was on the board. It was worth 17 million, I believe. So that would mean I had Clefable, Thundee, Garchomp with Mega Slowbro in the back. That would be 4 Mons, each of which are at least 16 million. I believe 2 of them would be 16 million, 2 of them would be 17 million, and that essentially strains my draft a lot later on. We'll see if I end up regretting that decision, as Garchomp would have been really, really nice on my team. Just looking at it more and more, like, wow, Garchomp would have been really cool on my team. But even so, I think what I did was worth it, because I was still able to get a very powerful ground type. I was able to get one that doesn't have a 4x weakness to ice. I was able to get one that has priority. I was able to get one that actually can switch into electric attacks because of not having that 4x weakness to ice, and can still be run somewhat defensively, and has access to spikes, and spikes can be a very, very useful tactic, especially on a team like mine. And you'll kind of see what the team really looks like as we begin to move further through this draft. But having something like Diggersby is really, really nice for my team for sure, especially because it also gives me that option to run more of a Volt Turn core with my offensive Pokemon if that is what the matchup calls for. As Thundurus, I can run both Volt Switch and U-Turn. Diggersby, one of the best U-Turn uses in the game, as well as one of the best normal spam users, and it's just really, really hard for opponents to prep for. So I really do think that the combination of Thundurus, and Diggersby will be insanely difficult for my opponents to prep for completely, and even if I do have an obvious way to prep for it, I am confident enough in my prepping ability to be able to work around those most likely strategies that my opponents might have. And I think between those two, I should be able to deal with most teams very, very well offensively, and they're obviously not going to be my only offensive threats. I have other ways to threaten an opponent's team offensively. They may just not look too apparent at draft preview, and that's exactly what I wanted with this draft. So let's go ahead and hop on over to the 4th pick, which was my first Sumo Pokemon that I've ever drafted in my life, and that is Decidueye. So Decidueye is going to be taking on the role as a defogger, obviously, as well as being a really nice utility mon for my team, as what Decidueye provides is Baton Pass, so another momentum Pokemon. It also provides the ability to Baton Pass both Swords, Dances, and Nasty Plots, which definitely will complement the Thundurus Diggersby core. It also complements Clefable. Don't overlook Clefable offensively. Decidueye just is really, really nice for my team in that support role. It also is nice just to be able to switch into various attacks, as just having a good grass type is really nice. It prevents Spore Spam. It's able to switch into some powerful fighting types. Obviously, I do have, I guess, the Clefable and the Thundurus, both of which can resist that, but it does take some pressure off of Clefable in terms of dealing with the fighting types. It also gives me a spin blocker, which, as you can see, I do already have Stealth Rock and Spikes on this team, so having a spin blocker is really nice for sure. But just most importantly, it was there for the hazard removing role, as many of the best defoggers and spinners were already getting taken up at this point, and due to a couple of the Pokemon that I was really eyeing here for later in my draft, I knew that I needed to get at least a pretty reliable hazard remover now, and probably get another one here soon as well, just to make sure that I'll be okay on that front. But that's Decidueye. Not a whole lot else to say on that. It is a very good Pokemon for its support roles, but it can be used offensively as well, as I've seen a Choice Band of Decidueye used by Matty Brawlick. Very recently, that was pretty interesting to see, but it just goes to show that Decidueye is actually a strong offensive threat when the matchup calls for it. So definitely excited to see how this thing works. My first Sumo Pokemon. I'm not really big on Sumo Pokemon right now just because the move pools aren't very diverse, but Decidueye does have a lot going for it, and we will see how that goes. So now for my 5th pick in the draft, I did decide to pick up another member of my defensive core, kind of completing what I think will be one of the most nasty, probably the nastiest defensive core in the entire league, and that is Registeel, forming a Registeel Clefable Mega Slowbro defensive core. Now tell me one person that you know would want to face a core like that. I'm waiting. No, I don't hear anybody. Did you say something? No? Okay, that's what I thought. So there is nobody who wants to deal with that core. Nobody at all. It also gives me another Stealth Rocker. It also gives me just a nice overall utility switch into anything, because Registeel isn't everything resist as long as it's not a fighting type. That also makes it all the more important as to how I picked up the Decidueye as well as the Clefable to help support that fighting weakness. That said, I am kind of starting to notice a bit of a fire weakness on my team. Obviously, the Mega Slowbro is coming on later on, but I am starting to notice a little bit of a fire weakness, as well as Well, I guess that's the main one at this point. I'll talk more about, I guess, the overall synergy when we get there. But Registeel added a couple small weaknesses to my team, but the most important thing is that the stout defensive core has been formed. Clefable, Registeel, Mega Slowbro will not be easy for anyone to take on. And it's probably, I don't know, I've never used Registeel in the format. I've seen it used to great effect though, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. It's obviously a little bit passive. Registeel is definitely a passive Pokemon. That was the one reason why I hesitated to pick it up, but at this stage I knew that it needed a powerful Steel type. I was eyeing something like Metagross. Metagross was kind of expensive though, and I just decided to go with more of the budget pick and pick up Registeel in this slot. And we'll just see how it goes for me there. So next up, at the number 6 pick for my draft, I decided to again turn to my hazard removal department, as because of my number 7 pick that you'll see here soon, and you might already know it just based upon what I've said so many times in the NPL season, hint hint, I needed to turn to my hazard removal here, and I also knew that I wanted some sort of fighting offense on my team, as a fighting type is, in my opinion, actually the best typing in the format. The best offensive typing rather in the format. The only real competition to that is something like Fairy offense or Fire offense, but I really personally like fighting offense in the format. It came down to options like Hitmonlee or Hitmontop for that spot, as I believe those are the only 2 fighting types that can also get rid of hazards. Also had things like Hariyama on the board. Obviously can't get rid of hazards, but it would be pretty nice for the fire weakness that is current, and the ice weakness really, as I do have the Thundee-Eye, Diggersby, Registeel, Thundee-Eye, Diggersby, Decidueye that opened up a pretty large ice weakness on my team, which Registeel did help with. I don't think I mentioned that, but that definitely was useful for that for sure. And so with my 6th pick in the draft, I decided to pick up Hitmontop, as Hitmontop is able to both serve the offensive and defensive role of a fighting type, as well as being a solid utility mon with Rapid Spin and excellent priority options. I believe it has 3 priority options in Mach Punch, Bullet Punch, and Fake Out, so that's definitely pretty useful. I can bring a priority option that best suits whatever matchup I might have, but honestly it's just really nice for my team defensively, as just having that defensive fighting type really takes the burden off of Registeel Mega Slowbro, as a lot of the time this season I'm going to want to run offensive Mega Bro, as that's the true threat in the format in my opinion. Offensive Mega Bro is the threat, trust me, and if I can take that defensive burden off of Mega Slowbro by having something like a Hitmontop, Registeel, defensive core, maybe Clefable as well, I should be able to deal with most physical threats, or even special threats, very well. I would say very few things are able to easily break through all of those, especially considering all of the utility that the abilities of those 4 mons have. So definitely excited to try out Hitmontop. It's my first time using it in the format. Some people don't like it, some people do. It's definitely kind of a hit or miss Pokemon, but I feel like I can use it well, especially if I support it well as well. As something like Hitmontop definitely wants some wish support, I believe, especially if it's going to take on more defensive roles. Clefable can obviously wish pass, but I'm going to be looking later on in my draft for means of wish passing as well, just to make sure that I can prolong the longevity of both Hitmontop and Registeel, both mons that definitely would benefit from wish passing. So that's another precursor to some of the stuff you might see later on, but that's about all I have to say on Hitmontop for now. Let's move on to my round 7 pick. Now this is the one that is pretty much going to be my staple Pokemon of this generation, I'm thinking, because a lot of people sleep on it. People think it's just not very good. Those people are flat out wrong, and that is Talonflame, as without the Gale Wings, with the Gale Wings nerf, sure, Talonflame was neutered a lot. Sure, I'll buy that. But let's be honest here. Talonflame's base speed is 126. That outspeeds essentially everything. The only things that are going to outspeed Talonflame are priority, Scarfers, or things that already have maybe a +1 from Dragon Dance. So those are situations that I can deal with in other ways, because my defenses are so strong to chew up that priority, and because I have a lot of ways to really negate setup opportunities. So Talonflame fits this team like a glove, in my opinion, especially because I now have 2 hazard removers, both of which are pretty reliable in Hitmontop and Decidueye. And with Talonflame not contributing to any redundant weaknesses, it's definitely a solid mon on my team. It also gives me a nice resistance to fire, which I did not have any of yet at this point. Obviously Mega Slowbro is on the way, but Talonflame is nice to help with the fire resistances. as well as just help out offensively on this team, as well as defensively, as this is another one of those mons that can be a huge nuisance defensively. And if people think the Stallbreaker Talonflame isn't a set anymore, just go back and watch my game against Merc in the NPL. Sure, I lost that game, but I made that game last a long time because of Talonflame. So Talonflame can definitely be used defensively still. Definitely don't think that it can't, and I do expect that it will be a very strong asset to my team throughout this season because of its defensive abilities, as well as being a huge offensive threat, as this will also be one of my Z move users. Just like I did in the NPL, I love a Z Stone on Talonflame because it allows it to serve that defensive role more easily, as even without a boost due to Z moves, I will be able to still be an offensive threat without a boost, because Brave Bird boosted by the Z-Stone does a ton. You've already seen from the NPL that I like to run things like Z U-Turn, Z Flare Blitz is an option, I can run Z Steel Wing. It also has some other options like Natural Gift, which is pretty cool, as well as support options like Taunt Will-O-Wisp, Bulk Up, and Swords Dance, and Tailwind as well. So there's a lot of things Talonflame can do still very well. Sure, it doesn't get priority on all of its flying moves, but that's not too important, honestly. Obviously, that was pretty nice. Obviously, that made Talonflame a round 1 pick. But getting Talonflame in round 7 for only 9 million, considering that things like Arcanine were 15, I believe, that's a steal in my opinion. So I am really, really happy to have Talonflame on this team again, and we'll see how far it takes me in the PPL. Now, in round 8, I needed to start turning to some of those roles that I wanted to fill with my team that I mentioned earlier. And in this case, I'm going to be turning to, I guess, one role that I didn't even mention, and that was having a grounded poison type, because T-Spikes are annoying when you have a Mega Slowbro on the team. So this mon I decided to pick up was Drapion. Now, Drapion allows me to have Stab Knockoff as well as Stab Pursuit, which is really, really useful. It also fills a really nice speed tier void that my team currently had, and that I had a huge speed tier gap between Thundee and Diggersby, I believe, where I had a 111 Thundee and then a base 78 Diggersby. So I needed to get something kind of smack in the middle of that to try to close that down a little bit, as that was looking pretty nasty there for sure. I don't want opponents to be able to run a ton of bulk on some of their base 100 just because I have that huge gap. So this definitely closes that gap, and that's really crucial for my team, I believe, as well, as I do not want people to be able to run an excess amount of bulk, because I want things like my Diggersby and Thundee to be able to break them down a little bit easier, as well as Talonflame. So Drapion helps with the speed tier problem, as well as helping with having another Taunters. Taunters are really, really good on a team like this. I now have at least 3 Taunters in Thundee, Talonflame, Drapion. I'm not sure if the Decidueye gets Taunt. It might, honestly. I'm not exactly sure, but that's something to look into. Not really sure, but just nice having Taunt on this team, like I said before. It also lets me have T-Spike, so I now have Stealth Rock as well as Spikes, as well as T-Spikes with the Rapid Spinner and a Spin Blocker, so as well as a Defiant user in Thundee. So I have the Hazard Stack game going on, which can be really useful with a team that is as fat as mine, as well as a team that is able to gain momentum like mine can through the combination of Thundee, Diggersby, Decidueye, and Talonflame. So Hazard Stack is definitely in play now with my team with the Drapion pick, and I'm excited to see how that turns out. Now, Drapion is another mon that I feel is highly underrated in the format. It's an absolute monster in its respective tier in Smogon play, and that's because it's really versatile in Smogon play as well. Now, who's to say that versatility doesn't immediately transfer to draft format? I think that that's a perfect translation, and just meaning that Drapion's all the more of a threat, as offensively it can run double dance sets with agility and swords dance. It can also just be a pure physical menace with the life orb, as well as having that excellent support move pool that I've already talked about a bit, and just being a very strong defensive Pokemon because of its excellent defensive typing. So I really do think Drapion has a lot of potential in the format. Some people have used it well. I think Shoddy's used it very well in the NPL this season, but I do want to give it another chance myself. I've used it only once in the past. That was in a small tournament, so definitely excited to give it one more chance here in the PPL. I think it supports my team very well, fits my team like a glove, and we will see how that goes. Now, for round 9, I have what might be the most controversial pick of my draft. I have 5 points left at this point. I could get something that's worth 5. There's some decent stuff that's worth 5, but nothing really fills the role that I needed. which was I wanted a Wish Passer to help support Registeel and Hitmontop, and even Drapion to an extent. I don't want Clefable to be restricted as a Wish Passer. Clefable needs to be freed up. I'm making it, I have full intention to make it my my Super Z move user. Clefable needs to be freed up to do whatever the heck it wants any battle. That means I need another Wish Passer. The best Wish Passer available is Audino in this case. I picked up Audino. Now Audino, on paper, looks like it does absolutely nothing. That's true. Now let's think about it a little bit further. So Audino actually serves a really crucial role for my team. Audino has access to Trick Room. Look at my team and then look at Trick Room. My team is definitely a threat under Trick Room. No questions asked. My team is a huge threat under Trick Room. Audino can do Trick Room. It can also use Healing Wish. Audino is able to essentially heal up anything else on my team. If you don't think Audino's a threat, you better look at whatever Audino's about to heal up, because that's about to become a threat. So Audino is good on in those regards. It's also good as a Wish Passer. It has Regenerator, so it doesn't have to click Protect on its Wish. It can just switch into something like Mega Slowbro, like Registeel, like Talonflame, I don't know, even like Hitmontop, or even Decidueye. It can Wish Pass very easily to things on my team because of its normal typing. The only thing that might struggle, I suppose, to receive a Wish from it is the Registeel, and yeah, I can respect that. And we'll kind of see how that goes. I'm going to have to build pretty carefully for situations like that where I feel like I need to Wish Pass to Registeel. In that case, I might be forced to run Wish Clefable. That's fine. That's a very unique situation, and I can definitely adapt on that. But otherwise, Audino can Wish Pass to my entire team very easily, and that's why I feel Audino fits my team so well. Coupling with that, Audino has access to a very wide move pool, being a normal type like it is. So Audino is able to deal with any mons that might try to set up on me, as Audino is quote-unquote setup fodder. Audino will not be set up on. Don't you worry about that. I can run exactly the covered move that I need to prevent whatever the biggest threat is from setting up in my face. That will not be an issue. So I really do think Audino fits this team well. It only costed me 4 million, meaning that I actually still have one more point left before I spend the 16 on Mega Slowbro. And that means for my 10th pick, I'm going to get 11 mons in this draft because of picking up Audino. For my 10th pick, it's meme time. And who's to say I can't draft a meme that's actually going to help my team? We're getting Diglett in round 10. So Diglett obviously has Arena Trap. Yeah, Diglett is really weak. I agree. But Arena Trap is no joke. I personally have used Diglett on the ladder to actually pretty good success. Heatran dies to Earthquake. Max HP Heatran dies to unboosted Earthquake from Diglett. Okay? Tapu Koko takes a lot from Earthquake. I think it takes like 70 to 80% if it's a standard max Tapu Koko. That's a lot. That means it dies after rocks, essentially. After rocks and Earthquake, it dies. Diglett can trap essentially any electric type that's not, like, really fat. Like, obviously it can't trap a Zapdos, but it could trap something like Raikou. It probably could take a hit from Diglett pretty easily, but that's still weakening the Raikou regardless. It can also trap Frail Megas. I'm not going to go into specifics on that, but that's also one other way that you can use Diglett. It's actually a good mon. It's kind of cool that that Diglett is a mon that actually can be worthwhile on a team, and it's especially nice on more of a semi-stall looking team like this is kind of turning out to be. Obviously, this looks like semi-stall on paper. It kind of is. It's semi-stall, and then you add in a Thundee and a Diggersby, so it's kind of a weird looking draft, but it's actually pretty effective, and I really do think it's going to do well this season. Just looking at my matchups, it's actually pretty darn good. But of course, we'll talk more about that on a matchup by matchup basis when we get there. But Diglett actually is the glue to this team. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Mega Slowbro now. Mega Slowbro completing this team, giving me that last fire resist, a nice ice resist, as well as just being the pure psychic type, giving me a really nice switch in, again, to fighting attacks, as well as just generally being an everything wall if I need it to be an everything wall. So this team looks really, really fun. It's really nasty. It looks really nasty, and I think a lot of people are going to dread playing it, and that's exactly what I want. As that's kind of more my style, honestly. I'm not going to draft hard stall. As you can see, I want to have some offensive mons, but having something like this that I can pretty much rely on having some sort of stout defensive core every single week is really nice for me to build with. I feel like I can have a lot of fun with building defensive cores with this team. as well as just having a random surprise offensive mon, or maybe multiple random surprises every single week. Clefable can be a huge surprise if it's offensive with the Z move. Mega Slowbro obviously can be a pretty good surprise with an offensive set. Even things like, I guess Registeel can run a curse set if I want to really get creative. Hitmontop can be offensive as well. I've seen offensive Hitmontop do a lot of work in the past, and some of my offensive mons can also be used defensively. Thundee can be used defensively. Diggersby can definitely be used more defensively, more likely in more of an assault vest role, but it definitely can do that. Decidueye can be used both offensively and defensively. Every single mon on my team, in fact, can be used defensively if I needed to be. Outside of Diglett, I'm not going to say Diglett can be used defensively. That's a little too much, but otherwise, the team can be really, really good. In my opinion, it's the best defensive team in the league. I'm just going to say it. I do think it's the best defensive team in the league. Not the best offensive team in the league, obviously, but that's not the point either. I do think the best draft in the league was Shoddy's. If you haven't seen his draft analysis video, definitely recommend you go check that out on his channel. I know it's already uploaded at this point, but I do think my team has a lot of potential, and thanks to the guys in my front office, we were able to put this thing together, and I think it's actually going to be really good. So definitely excited to give it a spin here this season. So that's about all I want to say on the draft analysis. I hope I didn't go into too little detail, and I really hope I didn't go into too much detail, because I don't want to give away more information than I need to in this draft analysis. But I hope you did enjoy regardless. Please leave a like and a comment down below to let me know what you think about the draft, what you think I could have done better. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sticking around if you're still here this late into the video. And I hope you're looking forward to the Week 1 PPL D1 uploads coming up here on April 3rd, just following my NPL playoff upload against Iron Flash Gaming on April 1st. And all of that following our big March Madness tournament coming up here this weekend, March 25th. I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next time. Peace.